Hello and welcome to episode 228 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Joining me as always is the President's League Freak. You can find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
I'm going very well, Andrew Ferguson. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I love these very formal introductions.
I know sometimes you've got to be formal before you can get into the really good stuff.
It's almost like we're meeting each other for the first time every time.
I know, right?
Our memories are completely shit when it comes to knowing each other.
Do you know, I was actually thinking today, what percentage of time that we actually talk, would you say we actually podcast? Because we talk a lot. I don't think people realise that we chin wag a lot.
Yeah, and not so much about footy all the time either. I think
No.
we're just talking off air there how we both got online last night to record a podcast, and then we just sat there watching the Formula One the whole time instead. And went, nah, fuck it, too tired. Let's go to bed now.
Yeah. we probably cost ourselves a record day.
There you go. See, that's how committed we are to you people. Sometimes we just don't give a toss. But we're giving a toss now.
We had good intentions because we got on and we're like, okay, what are we going to talk about? Talk about this. So, look at this. Okay, the race is starting. Oh, wow. Oh, look at this. Oh. And then it got to about, lap 20?
Yeah.
We were gone.
Yeah, everything went tits up.
Yeah.
For everyone. But we're here now.
Yes.
And before we get underway, we need to do one important bit of business, and that is mention the fine people at manscaped.com.
That's true. Manscaped.com provides men, and I guess women too, let's not discriminate here, with the ability to use the finest shaving implements to make sure that their genitals are nice and smooth and just looking fantastic. And let's face it, we all want our genitals to look great. And so if you go to manscaped.com and put in our exclusive promo code, which is NRL, you'll get 20% off of everything, plus free shipping. And it really is, it's the number one place to go if you want your genitals to look really good, whether you want to display them to your partner or a loved one, somebody, you know. We tend to say don't display them to anybody you don't know, because that's just not the go. But anybody that wants to see your genitals, they will be really impressed by just the brilliant cut you get out of the Lawnmower 3.0. So go to manscaped.com, put in our code NRL, 20% off and free shipping. That code is NRL.
That's from us to you.
Yeah, and your genitals.
There you go. Now, speaking of genitals, let's have a look at some Fox Sports news.
Okay, let's do this.
So, first bit of news today.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got two big stories here, but the first big one is that the Dragons have decided to appoint a coach who has never actually played for the club before.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. I guess the last one was Wayne Bennett, and before him, I can't even tell you who it would have been, because I think every other coach has either played for the St. George Illawarra Dragons or St. George.
Or probably Illawarra, or maybe both.
Yeah, I'm going back. The last one I can remember is Brian Smith, and then after him it was David Waite. He was a Dragon. Who was before Brian Smith?
Steve Price.
He was a Dragon, wasn't he?
Yeah, he played for the Dragons in 97.
Oh, yes, Steve Price. Yeah. But, who was their last non-Dragons coach? They might never have had one going back to captain coaches, hey?
Andrew Farrar, but he played for Illawarra in his last season in 1994.
Okay, what about did Roy Masters coach them for a bit?
Oh, we're going back now.
Yeah.
I think Roy Masters did coach St. George.
Yeah. I don't think... I'm trying to think. He might be the only one. He's the only one I can think of anyway.
Yeah, I think he would be.
That's crazy.
Let's come back to the early 80s.
Well,
that's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Now they've got their third one. So hopefully Anthony Griffin goes well. And I saw somebody say on Twitter today it's pretty funny that he's taken over the coaching role of a club that had a review done by Phil Gould.
Yeah. When we say review with air quotes.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Phil Gould just turned up and grabbed a check and left.
Yeah. I mean,
the
only thing that would be worse is trying to change an entire junior development system via email.
Don't point it out. Don't rule it out. It's going to happen, mate. It's going to happen.
I know, right?
So, yeah, Anthony Griffin, head coach for the Dragons. You know what?
Yep.
Very good decision from the club.
I agree. They could have made some really bad choices, and there was a point there I thought they were going to put Dean Young into the role. I saw a lot of people saying that in the press conferences they like how Dean Young talks, so he must be a good coach. And I was like, oh, man, that's not a good sign. But, yeah, I think they've made the right choice.
Now, one thing I want to raise, now that they've gone and hired someone who's not a former Dragon, where does this put Flanagan? Because I think this changes the whole dynamic. I reckon they would have been sitting there thinking, let's just get some interim coach to hang around until Flanagan's served his time and then we'll make him coach. But Griffin is good enough to be the head coach for as long as he wants.
Yeah, and if I'm Griffin, the first thing I do is tell the club, you get rid of Shane Flanagan as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah. I think Flano should head over to England for a while.
Yeah, he should. I just wouldn't want him involved in any part of the club at all that I was taking over, because you don't want to have to clean up a mess.
There we go. So that's that bit of news out of the way. Now, the next bit of news is the NRL has made interim CEO Andrew Abdo the new NRL CEO. And he's revealed his bold vision, according to Fox Sports, about what he sees for the future of the game. And as it says here, he's unveiled his 3-phase plan for the future of the game.
Oh, nice. That's different. Hang on. Let me just pull out the filing cabinet, because I need to write this one down.
It's probably sitting on top of the desk.
Yeah. Well, I need to put it next to Peter Beattie's one, John Grant's one.
It's probably still sitting in the photocopier.
Yeah, he just found Peter Beattie's and I was like, man, if I cut this into 3 parts, I just say it's got 3 phases.
Cross out Peter Beattie's name and then write his name above it. That's mine. It says he wants to reinvigorate tribalism.
Oh, we've heard that before. That was a load of shit.
I'm curious, how do you reinvigorate tribalism?
I
mean, a race war is usually a good way of starting a bit of tribalism.
Yeah. The British were always very good at it. Maybe we should ask them.
we could start with some sort of New South Wales versus Queensland thing, perhaps.
That'd be pretty cool. You know what would be also cool is if you had teams that represented, say, certain sections of Sydney and you broke them down into like large, if not suburbs, like sort of greater areas.
Yeah, look, these are 2 great ideas already. I hope he's listening, because this could work.
That'd be great.
He wants to win the battle for the NRL's traditional heartland in rural New South Wales and Queensland.
Wow, you know what? I know these are new ideas, but they sound so familiar.
Everyone knows I'm a bit of a stickler for wanting more done for rural New South Wales and Queensland, rugby league wise, and largely because the region got completely, almost cut off, I guess, but ignored during the Super League war, and no one bothered to pay any attention to it afterwards, because all the money's been focused on keeping the game in the NRL hands, I guess, and then consolidating it afterwards.
Yeah.
I think it's been neglected and forgotten for too long. And a lot of these areas have had AFL not just creep in, but largely dominate the region. especially in what used to be a really strong rugby league area in the region where I'm from, which is along the New South Wales Victorian border, on the New South Wales side there, so the Riverina, that sort of area. The game is struggling there. Country areas are also struggling, just population wise.
Yeah.
But so I'd like to see something done there. I think what they may need to do is work on probably having more games, probably televised as well, where a representative team from each region plays in some sort of competition or a knockout comp or something like that. And it gets aired, so they get a bit of publicity, get some TV, get a bit of exposure. That's going to be the best way to get it out there. And it's probably not going to cost the NRL much to do that. You can get local commentators at games, at the grounds and stuff to do that, and it would be fine. I think that'd be one idea I'd like to see in both areas. And this is not going to be well liked. I know you probably won't like it. They've got to bring back a version of City versus Country, but not New South Wales only. Make it Australia City versus Australia Country. A one-off game like that, and play it in the country.
If they did it, it was all of Australia, and it's City versus Country, and they designated more than one city or two cities. Like, if you're from Townsville, I'm sorry, you don't live in the country. If you're from Wollongong, you're not the country. If you're from Canberra, you're not the country. They need to really designate what is the country. And I know that we've said before it should be maybe anything that's 100 kilometres inland. Maybe you take the Great Dividing Range and say everything the other side. I don't know, but if it was all of Australia, it'd be interesting. But yeah, the New South Wales one, and that it never did anything for me. And I'm a city person. I understand from your point of view, from a country person, it means a lot more. But for me, it's like, city. What the fuck?
Yeah, I know. And look, the thing that sort of really hurt it, I guess, is, and it's very similar to what Queensland went through with the interstate games prior to Origin, is you didn't care if you lost. You didn't care if you got flogged.
Yeah.
You just wanted to see your guys out there. And more often than not, you wanted to see them actually just physically bash the other team.
Yeah.
Didn't care about the result. And I think that's something that was completely lost. And because the game was always controlled by Sydney, they just went, we beat you every year. What's the point of this? And so they're going, you don't realise how much it means to the people in the country.
Yeah.
And back then, it was especially throughout the, when the game, before it went to the origin style thing in the late 80s, City versus Country was pretty much the best way for country talent to get seen in Sydney and have those players end up going into Sydney clubs.
Yeah.
And many of the game's greatest players have come from the country games.
What if you had New South Wales Country versus Queensland Country?
I'd be fine with that even.
Yeah.
But we've got to have something along those lines, because at the moment, the entire region is neglected completely. And that was the fear I had all along when they scrapped it. They didn't realise that how much of an impact it was going to have in an area where they've let it slide and slip away. And that just made things worse.
Yeah.
There's no eyes on it anymore.
Yeah. I like the idea of having maybe, and I don't know how the rugby league regions are cut up in country New South Wales, but I like the idea of having, large enough representative regions and then having some sort of knockout competition. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know the answer for country rugby league because I'm not from there. So it's cool to hear your ideas on it and your opinions on what should happen. But I think a all of Australia City versus Country, that does interest me a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. One of the other big problems we had with it was when they went to the Origin style thing, which I think was about 1987.
Yeah,
it basically just became Newcastle and Illawarra versus Sydney.
Yeah.
And people who are in actual country areas were like, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And like, I mean, we've talked about this before, but like when Matt Orford, I think it was Matt Orford, was getting selected and he was from Gosford. And it's like, are you fucking serious now?
Andrew Johns was playing for country.
Yeah.
Hey, come on. He lives in a city.
Yeah.
So, maybe they could do a test and say, right, have you had your arm up a cow? If not, if the answer is no, then you're playing for City.
What would be some of the other tests you'd have? Because I wouldn't even know. Like,
have you ever put a star picket into a ground and made it stay in place?
Okay,
right.
What else?
Ever mulesed a lamb?
Like, you know what would be a good disqualifier? Have you ever lived somewhere with town sewerage? And if somebody says, yeah, of course, then they're out.
They're out, yeah. Do people come and collect your bins? That's it.
Hang on. What do you do with your bins then?
We don't have bins. We got a trailer. And you take your rubbish from the trailer up to the tip and you throw it in the tip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you burn it? I'd just burn it.
The council comes out and burns it once or twice every year, but if you can burn it at your own property, I guess.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, what else could there be? Do you actually know what it feels like to go through a drought? And what I mean by that is, I remember going through a drought in my teenage years, and we used to get excited when we saw the trucks bringing the water into town.
Okay, yeah. So, okay. This is a disqualify question.
Yeah.
During a drought, will a council come and fine you for watering your garden? It's like, oh yeah, they will. Yeah, you're from the city then.
Exactly. Yeah. Will they come and fine you for washing? Actually, do you wash your car? If the answer is yes, and you're from the city.
Oh shit, that's a good one.
Can you see your neighbour if you while still staying inside your house? If the answer is yes, you live in the city. That's pretty much it. I think there's some good qualifiers there.
Yeah, I'm happy with those ones.
We can work with that.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Abdo's also said that the idea of expansion is not off the table, but it is not an immediate priority.
Well, that's the most uncommitted commitment to nothing I've ever heard in my life.
I think he probably would have been better off just going, yeah. That would have been much more accurate.
When it comes to expansion, I don't know.
Now, something else that he's big on, because he has been in charge of the books for a while, which raises another issue, which we'll get to in a sec. But he said we need to reset the rugby league economy. This is what he told NRL 360.
Okay.
And he said that the game has copped a financial hit of around 25 to 30% of yearly revenue.
Why?
So, remember at the start of the year, cast your mind back, and these people were sitting there abusing the hell out of Todd Greenberg because the amount of money that the game was spending.
I do, yeah.
While we explained pretty clearly that a lot of that was to do with the digital arm.
Yes, and among other things, running the whole sport across Australia.
But the game's chief of finance, who's in charge of the money.
Yeah, it was him, wasn't it? Wasn't he the COO?
Yes, he did not cop any criticism.
No. But
now all of a sudden, he's a beacon of light.
Excellent. Wow.
Yeah. Recent reports say that the NRL was cutting $80 million a year in spending at the head office. Abdo reveals it might be around $50 million just for a year or two. Then they'll start sort of building it back up again as they need to, depending on, demands, I guess. So sorting out the finances was one aspect of his three-phase strategy, which was stabilising, renovating, and growing the game. Part of stabilising is taking stock, he said. Well, that's stock taking, isn't it?
I love that he's just using buzzwords. He's not saying anything.
We're reducing our costs. We're focusing on locking in our revenue. I want to have a talk to your sidekick there, Mr. Vlandis. Didn't he just reduce the revenue by negotiating a TV rights deal that didn't need to be negotiated for less than what it was?
Yeah, he negotiated the broadcasting deal ahead of time, a couple of years ahead of time. He locked it in for a couple of extra years at a lower rate, and he did it during the biggest financial crisis in world history since the 1920s.
Or because the Channel 9 decided to shit on the game.
Yeah, well, they said that the game was poorly run financially, and then a couple of weeks ago, Channel 9 revealed that they've lost, I think it was $450 million just this year, because they're really well run.
He also said we need to make some changes together with the players and the clubs and the state league to stabilise the game. I don't know what changes you can make to the state competition, given it's. I wouldn't imagine it's getting that much coin.
No, look, I call the games in the New South Wales Cup. I'm a commentator.
Yeah, among many other things.
Yeah. The most of them are swear words. But, I don't know what you would do to bring any more stability. It kind of is what it is. Maybe they could definitely plan things a little bit better. It's not very well run at a certain point, but what do you do? He's using buzzwords and they don't mean anything. Like if he was saying, well, we're going to take the New South Wales Cup and the Queensland Cup and we're going to do this, this and this, I'd say, wow, that's interesting. But instead he's saying we're going to stabilise it. We're going to make it better. We're going to make it financially viable. It's like, how?
Yeah, I tell you what I'd like to see is a genuine reserve grade competition returned. And, they could use the clubs that currently exist, but they just need to be much more strongly affiliated with their NRL club. Like, have them play at the same ground on the same day, if possible. And, that way fans are getting genuine value for money. They could probably charge an extra $5 or $10 a seat to generate more income as well, because fans are going to be getting extra games of footy to watch.
I say this as somebody that has commentated the games. I do not turn up for the reserve grade games.
That's fine, but some people will.
But how many people, honestly?
Doesn't matter. Look, seriously, if it's 100 people and you charge an extra $5 on the ticket, there's an extra $500 per game.
Yeah, but
isn't extra money a good thing?
Well, unless you're Peter Vlandis. I don't know. I just think that. The other thing is, I think they've got to be a little bit flexible at New South Wales Cup level, and I only use that as an example because I've seen it happen. So I don't know. I just think that the reserve grade system works all right for what it is. That you've got your different levels in Sydney. The clubs use it. They use it as a reserve grade. I think losing the under-20s competition was a really bad move for the NRL, and I said it at the time. I thought it was just a cynical cost-cutting move by the clubs. Unfortunately, my club was the one that was leading the charge. But, yeah, I don't know what you do to make it any better. I was pushing for the New South Wales and Queensland Cup premiers to play each other on grand final day years and years and years before it ever happened.
See, this is why I called you president at the start of the episode.
Yeah.
There we go. But yeah, I mean, if you got an extra 100 people to come to a game to watch the first game and you charge an extra $5 on the ticket, that comes to almost an extra $100,000 over the regular season. That's handy coin to have lying about, surely.
Yeah, I just wonder how. I mean, I don't know how the New South. Look. I'm trying to find reasons for it to not work. It's worth a go. I just think that we've had that system in place before. I don't think it did too much for the game. I don't think it's such a bad thing to have the New South Wales Cup trying to be a bit of a standalone competition while having the links to the NRL. And I think especially as we move towards having the New South Wales and Queensland Cups bring in teams from overseas, I think that, like I don't want to see a 16-team reserve grade competition, put it that way. I want the New South Wales and Queensland Cups to be way more than 16 teams, together.
Oh, yeah, you've got to have it more than that.
Mm.
Absolutely. I mean, you should have teams that are planning to be expansion clubs.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a good spot for them to start bringing in, affiliations with local leagues and stuff like that, and having players come through that way.
Mm-hmm.
So for the likes of the Brisbane Bombers, if Perth wanted to have a team, they could get players from a local league over there playing. It's all about. It's not about going to be making those clubs financially viable. It's about making sure that they've got good systems in place for when they do make it to the NRL, if they get there.
Yeah.
And helping them with management and stuff like that, I guess, so they're ready when they do make the step up.
I wonder if we're at a point, we've got to be there pretty soon, because we've got the Fijian team that I believe is in the Ron Massey Cup at the moment. I think that's the level they're at. We've got the PNG Hunters in the Queensland Cup. I wonder if we get to a point where we rename both of those competitions. You might call it the Wally Lewis Cup and the Clive Churchill Cup for New South Wales. And then we do bring in a team from Perth, and then we make sure Melbourne has a team, and maybe even Adelaide has a team, and, try and build it up from there. I think that'd be a good idea.
Absolutely. What's it talking about renovating? We've got a wonderful house that we love, rugby league, and a hurricane has come through, which is COVID. Wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
The upside of this is to think about how we can come out to rebuild our house even stronger and take advantage of things we should have done earlier, what we can do so now. Thinking differently, reinvigorating tribalism, thinking about how we can get more people to stadiums, thinking about how we might be able to create an even more entertaining product. Well, I mean, we've discussed entertaining products before. Would we have bears?
Yeah, bears, duck, goose. I think we released a live tiger at one point.
Yeah,
as well.
God, who wouldn't want to watch that?
Yeah, I'd watch it in a second.
I think that would be the absolute marker to find out just how fast a fox is if it's got a fucking tiger chase it down the sideline.
Imagine how quick he'd run. I think we also brought guns in at some point. Like you could
snipers on the roof, I think it was.
Yeah. But I like this idea of we want to make it more entertaining. It's I think that you want to fuck with the rules when you say that.
Exactly right. And the third stage is growth. And that can come from a number of areas, whether it's in the international game, clubs, and the competition structure, the products and experiences for our fans. We've got to go through those different phases, but right now it's important to stabilise.
So he doesn't actually want to grow. He wants to stabilise.
Well, his point is we're in a situation where right now we need to focus on stabilising, getting ourselves, I suppose, recovering from COVID, which I think is fair enough. And then it's all about thinking about how to make the game bigger and more entertaining and whatnot from that point onwards. I'd hate it if they were to start tinkering with the rules even further. I'd like to see the set restart scrapped, and I'd like to see 2 refs back. Look, obviously I was opposed to it at the start, and I'm going to be honest, okay, it hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be, but I don't think it's had a hugely positive impact on the game. I just think it's, I don't know. I don't see how it's made it more entertaining for me.
No, I know the referees are missing more because there's...
Well, the ruck has become a bit sloppier because of it. We're not seeing... There's no... Players aren't even bothering to try and play the ball correctly anymore.
Yeah.
I also don't like the ref challenge thing. And I think the fact that it gets used so often and it's found that the referee was right in the first place actually proves just how stupid the ref challenge system is and how irrelevant it is.
Mm-hmm. I don't mind the ref's challenge system just because for the same reason, basically. How many times we see a player just getting up and they're like, challenge it, and they just flat out drop the ball. And I like seeing that because I think it shows that, the players are fallible.
It does. But the other thing is, okay, we've also had a lot of people saying, "Oh, the refs challenge," and I remember this argument at the start. People saying the refs challenge will stop all of the hatred being piled on referees, and has it?
No, not at all.
No. People still abuse the referees. They still hate on. They still claim that their games are fixed and the refs are dodging and cheating and all sort of other bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So the refs challenge has done nothing to help the referees, other than prove to the people who've got a set of eyes and aren't painted on, that they're right more often than fans generally realise.
100%. And one of the things that this year that has stood out for me, how many times the video referee will be called upon to make a decision, and I'll be watching it and thinking to myself, I am so glad I don't have to pick one or the other, try or no try decision, because some of the calls they're having to make are dead set 50-50.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you just know either way, they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. And then when you couple that with the fact that most people, when they do watch rugby league, they watch it on TV, and that's their intake of rugby league for the week. And when all they hear from commentary is that the referees don't know what they're doing and they're complaining about the referees, and even so much as like, why are we looking at this? Why? Just give it a try. And the referees they're on a hiding to nothing. They cannot win, especially when on Monday the head of the referees has a PowerPoint presentation, and he not only points out where the referees are wrong, but he points out where it was a 50-50 call and he would have gone in a different direction.
Of course he would have. No hindsight there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to end.
It really does.
I know they think they're being transparent and all this sort of stuff, but it's just undermining the referees, and it's got to end. I hate it.
Terribly. How many headlines have we seen this year already? And it's like, Annesley says the referees are wrong. It's like every single week. And that's a terrible thing for the NRL to be putting out itself.
Yeah, especially from the bloke who's in charge of the refs. And it serves no purpose if he says they're right or wrong, because the decision's made. It's time to move on.
Yeah, and I think that there's this sentiment in, I think, sport, and I don't like it, and it is that you deserve to get everything right. And it's like, that's not how life works. You have your ups and downs, and sometimes things go against you. And the thing that makes you properly great is when you can rise above things that go against you. And when you're a sportsman, that can be, the ball bounces funny. That can be the wind takes the ball on a high kick and it just goes away from you. That can be the referee decides that you knocked on when you didn't. And if you can overcome all of that and still win, you are great. And I think that we need to, instead of demanding the result we want, there needs to be a point where you watch the game and you enjoy what happens, win, lose, or draw. And I know that's how I look at it. If I'm really enjoying this year because the Panthers are winning. But, man, I always think back to when we were terrible before 2003, and, we were properly terrible. We didn't have talent. And I used to struggle watching them games, but, damn, that watching those games when we were terrible is what makes now so good.
Yeah, I hope one day I'll get to understand what you're talking about.
It's awesome, Andrew. Seriously.
I'll take your word for it. I've got no idea what you're talking about here. So all I hear is just, I'm sitting there going, I recognise the words.
Yeah.
But the structure you're putting them in,
they're in a
mystery to me.
They're in a weird order, like the individual words make sense.
None of this.
Order they're in.
Yeah, I just thought maybe you're on acid or something. So about expansion, he says expansion will only happen if there's a solid business case for it. The numbers have to stack up. If it has to add value to the economy. We need to do that analysis in a post-COVID environment. We need to figure out if it's going to add value to the game, and if it does, then we need to have a plan to get there. It's not off the table, but equally there are a few things we have to do first before we move to that phase.
Rinse and repeat.
He declared the need to get better connect with fans and communities, particularly with regional New South Wales and Queensland. Areas where he said the game's body was structurally challenged. We've got a lot to do, and we can't overpromise and underdeliver. We've got to work methodically through everything. It's not just about spending more money in areas, it's about being cleverer.
God, this guy just spits out the words, hey?
Or being more innovative. How about just saying being more innovative and smarter instead of saying cleverer?
How about he tells us what he fucking means?
Well, I don't know if he's actually had that much time to figure out what he really wants to do. But if that's the case, then don't go on NRL 360 until you have figured it out.
Yeah, I saw during the week he said he's not a yes man. Anybody that's not a yes man definitely needs to say that they're not a yes man.
Look, I hope that he does stick with these 3 points and he gives us a bit more meat on those bones, because there's the potential for some good positive things out of that, but it's also insanely vague. It's hard to figure out exactly what the plans are.
Yeah, I don't value people that talk like that in those sorts of vague terms. If you're going to do something, say what you're going to do, and be upfront about it. There's no reason for him to go on NRL 360 and just use all of the fucking bullshit words that, he's been using there. If he wants to expand the competition, say, look, I want to put a team in Perth and I want to have them in Perth by the end of the decade. And the way that we do that is we have a couple more Origin games there. Then we bring them into the New South Wales Cup. We do that for 4 years and then they come into the NRL. Instead, it's like, well, we might expand, but we might not. And we got to see. And I hate that. I really hate that sort of talk.
Now, let's get on to some talk that I hate.
Okay.
It's basically anything Benny Lai says.
Okay. What's Benny said?
He's demanded that Josh Reynolds and Russell Packer should pack their bags. This is a genuine face turn attempt by Benny Elias.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've said it before. I'll say it again. Benny, just shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what this is about, Russell Packer and Josh Reynolds apparently decided at halftime last weekend that it was too cold to stay at the game, so they went home.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, old loudmouth Hood Ornament's gone off his fucking trolley about it, and he's calling it disgraceful and all these other colourful words.
Yeah.
And so now they've wheeled out Benny Elias to come in and agree with Hooper. At the end of the day, pretty much every Tigers fan generally doesn't give a shit because these players are going to be out of the club soon anyway. So, who cares?
Yeah, that's what I thought when I heard about it. I was like, if it was, say it was Luke Brooks and, I don't know.
Benji Marshall. Maybe not even him.
Not even Benji. Like, I don't know,
Moses and
Alex
Bai.
Twal, right?
Alex Twal, yes.
Yeah. If it was those two going at halftime, I'd say, wow, that's not good. That's a pretty bad precedent. But when it's those two old fuckheads, it's like, yeah, see you later.
Yeah, look, I also saw today that Elijah Taylor has been told that he won't be required at the Tigers next year. And it's made me wonder why so many people are thinking that Michael Maguire needs to be replaced as coach.
Look, he's either there to fix things or get somebody.
He's there to keep everyone happy and give everyone cuddles.
Yeah, and look, I think that there might be an element there at at the Tigers, where and we saw it with the dude that left for Parramatta, where there can be some environments that get set up where, and it happened in Newcastle, with all the boys needed a job,
Yeah.
and when the boys didn't get a job, they'd turn on whoever the coach was, and eventually it just destroys a club, because if you're trying to keep everyone happy rather than coach, you got a big problem. You're not winning games. Maguire is, if they think Maguire's the guy that's going to fix the club, just shut up and let him fix the club. And if they don't, they should do him the service of saying, Michael, thank you for your time here, but we're going to go in a different direction right now, because Michael Maguire will get picked up by a club immediately.
Yeah, I think what should happen is Justin Potato should come out and just say, we have absolutely no reason to get rid of Michael Maguire, and he is staying here, and we are going to back him to the hilt from right now until the time that he decides he doesn't want to be here anymore, because we need to make a lot of changes, and we see him as the man to do that. And if players don't like that, they can find another club. That's what he needs to come out and say. Instead, we're doing the same thing that we did when we had Grant Myers as CEO, where the time that you need him to step up and make a statement, he sits back and he does fucking nothing.
Yeah, and leaves it up to everyone else to front the media.
Well, it just lets the media fucking run wild with stories and allegations and rumours, and doesn't do anything about it to put the fires out. It just lets it go.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Like, this is the time we actually need the CEO to come out and, make a statement about this and say, no, this is who we're backing on. This is, we need him to do this job, and he's doing exactly what we asked of him.
Mm-hmm.
Support the coach.
Yeah, I agree. And look, it feels like Maguire is being undermined, and I don't know who's doing it, but it's a pretty public way they're going about it.
It'll be a few sooking players, and they'll be whinging to some, Hooper in the media, because Hooper's a West Tigers fan. God, Christ. And so they'll be sooking to him about it, and so that's how the media gets the news, I guess.
I just think it's like, if I was Michael Maguire, I would go into Potato and I'd say, do you want me coaching this club in 5 years' time? And if he even hesitated, I'd say, you need to find a new coach.
Yeah, see ya.
Yeah. Because Maguire's going to get it. Maguire, at the very worst, could be on the phone next week and be coaching in Wigan. And I'm not saying Adrian Lamb's doing a terrible job, but Wigan would snap him up immediately. I think most Super League clubs would, and they'd turf their current coach. And that's the worst case scenario for him. I think that he's the sort of coach that can wait for the right job. I think he's done a pretty good job already at the Tigers. He just needs to be allowed to continue doing it.
Yeah. I think the end of this year and coming in through next year, we're going to get to start to seeing him finally building a team more of what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going to have a few of these players that Cleary brought to the club starting to have their contracts come to an end.
Yeah.
So we can't really judge him until he gets that opportunity. At the moment, he's playing with someone else's team, which a lot of coaches end up doing.
Yeah.
But so much money's tied up in a handful of players who have never delivered on that money.
Not even close, yeah. I like that. I mean, how many of them... You literally cannot play. Like, I think as someone like Chris McQueen, you just couldn't play.
Yeah, he's gone already, pretty much. I think he's already got a deal for another club over in England somewhere.
Has he?
I think so. He's been told he's not going to be at the club next year.
Yeah. And like
Elijah
that...
Taylor, you got Josh Reynolds, who's been they've been trying to shop him out since last year. Russell Packer's the same. Ben Madaleno's been forced into retirement through injury, so that was fortunate in their regard, but unfortunate for Ben, obviously, because he was probably the one of this mob that Cleary brought in who was busting his backside.
Mm-hmm.
Reynolds has too, but he's been hampered by injury, and it's just a signing we never needed.
Never ever.
So yeah, it's just they've also got Chris Lawrence retiring, Benji Marshall's leaving the club. So they are freeing up plenty of places in the squad and cap cash, thankfully. And there are some talented juniors coming through. Just they need some X factor players in there. Yeah. Definitely need one in the halves.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, and Mbai's going to be the last one to go of this whole group of just wastes of money. And Benji Marshall really is the only one there that I would say is not a waste of money. But I understand that they needed to go in a different direction, and it's not a great player market this year, but they're not going to change it overnight.
No, so it'd be a few steady changes to the squad for over this off season, I'd imagine, and then next season is when they start to get a fair bit of this cap cash that's tied up in these overpaid players who shouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have that at their disposal, which could be close to $1.5-2 million of cap space freed up, which they'll just be able to spend. They can just splurge it on 2 spine players if they need to, and
that's what they should do.
Yeah. So we'll see how they go.
Unless they can get someone like a Burton from the Panthers. Like if they could get him for next year, he'd be well worth it.
Yeah. There's a few. I mean, I wouldn't mind if they went after Tom Starling at Canberra either as a hooker. You could come off the bench, because I don't know if Little will ever be an 80-minute player. It's good that he's been injury free. He has been playing pretty well since coming back from injury, and hopefully it stays that way for a long time now, because the poor bugger's been through too much for one player's career already.
Yeah,
and he does have shitloads of talent, that kid. So I'd like to see him get 1 or 2 full seasons under his belt before I'm confident that his body's strong enough to play week in, week out. But I don't think he's going to be an 80-minute player anytime soon. So we're going to need another hooker anyway.
Yeah.
And Starling looks to be a very good attacking hooker. I like the look of him, so I wouldn't mind seeing him come across.
Yeah.
Wouldn't cost a lot either.
I feel as though with the Tigers, they need to get worse before they get better.
Yeah, look, they're not far from being too much worse at the moment.
I know. But I feel as though there's been some purchases for the club and they've been really bad. It's kept them in that middle ground, and that's why they keep getting 9th place. And I feel as though they need to be willing to take a big step back, get some younger players through, buy some younger players from the club, and build for 5 years from now. And because they're not on the verge of winning the premiership. And I think that's one of the problems that a lot of teams do have, is that they'll be just outside the 8 or maybe just inside the 8, and they think, well, we only need 1 or 2 players, and it's like, no, you need a complete rebuild at this point. And that's what happens when you get a team like the Newcastle Knights under Bennett, where he basically builds a team to win now, and then when all those players retire at the same time, basically, the team falls apart anyway.
Yeah. I do wonder, though, with Bennett's Newcastle thing, if that's what he was actually hired to do in the first place anyway.
Well, I think that situation personally was a weird one. I mean, you had somebody that come in with a lot of money and basically would have said, do what needs to be done.
Yeah, I think that person with the money was demanding success immediately.
Yeah.
And that's why you get someone like Wayne Bennett in, because you just think, oh, that's who you get.
Mm-hmm.
I
also think that season was a massive aberration. I think that they got on a winning roll at the right time.
Oh, of course.
They had 3 weeks that were really good, and it could have happened in friggin' April, but for them it just happened to be at the right time of the year.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been some pretty good chat there.
Yeah, I've actually got an email that we got through the website, fergoandthefreak.com.
Oh, nice. We need to read that out.
Yeah, if you go to fergoandthefreak.com and go to the contact section, and you can email us through there. It's a really, really simple process. This one's from Ash, He says, when did he send this one? Let me see. He sent this on August the 18th. I'm very sorry, Ash.
It's good to see we're on top of this shit.
Yeah. He said, hi, boys. It's been a while. Yeah, I know. But have a question about the current run of injuries. As a Storm supporter, I do follow them closely. And when you look at the typically discussed stats, they rarely appear in regards to individual players, i.e. forward run meters per game, which to me means they are a great team. Thoughts?
Yeah, look, well, I think what everyone's sort of said it before is the thing that makes Melbourne good is they don't have a complicated game plan.
Yeah.
And Bellamy's been able to be really smart with having a few X-factor players and letting them do as they see fit. And every other person in the role who's not an X-factor player has a set few jobs they have to do. Yeah, and if they stick to those jobs, the X-Factor players will win them the games. And that's pretty much how he's worked things.
Yeah, like Cameron Munster is a great example of that. Pappenhausen is starting to work on that, but like Billy Slater was the ultimate at that. Cameron Smith can do whatever Cameron Smith wants to do. But yeah, I think you're right with that for sure. Yeah.
The injuries? I wouldn't be surprised if that comes down to the fact that the game has sped up with the set restarts, the less policing of the ruck. Mm-hmm. It's just meant that the game is moving faster, which I guess is visually a lot more pleasing to many people. But it also means that you now don't get as many stoppages, so players are getting worn out, which does increase the chance of injury.
Well, he's got something to say about that. He said, further to support this, when you look at the types of injuries at the moment, the high-intensity players appear to be the most affected. The Storm and Raiders do play a very intense brand of football and rely on key players. In combination with short season, with no breaks, do you think this is why we have seen a lot of season-ending injuries? I think it's a way to look at why Craig Bellamy and the Storm system is the benchmark club.
It's possible. I think... I just think the faster game, the injuries are just an impact of that. And I think what we had is we brought in too many rules to speed the game up immediately. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't phased in. So, if we had to phase back to one referee for this season, that would have sped up the ruck a lot more because there's less eyes on it. So it's going to roll on. We've seen that already.
Yeah.
That would have been the first bit of the speeding up of the game. And then the year after, if they'd have brought in the set restarts then, a lot of the players would have been used to the increased pace that the set restarts wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have made the game that much faster than what it has already. It would have made it a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
But it would have been something that the players probably would have had that extra year to get used to. It wouldn't have had as big an issue on their bodies. This is just my theory. But because you had both brought in at once, it's like taking a car and going from third gear into sixth gear and just missing all the other ones in the middle, So I think it's
like
something
a Ferrari Monza.
Yeah. It's like when a Ferrari hits the wall in reverse. So you go from when it hits the wall and just go back. So it's, it's 0 to 100.
When its brakes fucking explode at the end of the straight.
Yeah, it's just gone.
The interesting thing is now we've played where by the end of this season, we'll have played 18 straight weeks of football, which, when was the last time that happened without the Origin breaking it up and stuff like that? It's been a very long time.
Especially without buys. You'd probably have to go back to 1981.
Yeah. And, very, very, very different game back then. I think maybe, there's definitely a factor of everyone sat around for basically 6 weeks and then we're straight back into it. That's not good for injuries. And I felt like that the game actually dodged a bullet during the first probably 6 weeks of the competition, that we didn't see more injuries come out of that. I think players were remarkably fit and healthy during that time, and I think it's a credit to the players. I know we talked about that at the time. But it is interesting to see what's happening as we don't have any breaks. And I personally think that it just comes down to rugby league's a really brutal sport, and it takes a massive toll on a player's body just to, play the sport. I was actually thinking last weekend watching, I can't remember what game I was thinking about this, but like for most people, if you just got physically fit, if you spent a whole year just running and hitting the gym a little bit and stuff like that, and then you were hit in one NRL tackle, that would be one of the most painful things you've ever experienced in your life. And you would be sore for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the chances are in like a month or two from now, you'd still be saying, man, my knee's just not the same. It's still something wrong. Or my elbow or my neck is funny. And these dudes do it every single week. And sometimes they do it on a 5-day turnaround. Sometimes they do it with a longer turnaround. And they back up, they back up, they back up. Some players, I think, just hit a genetic lottery. And they're just built where you can go rough and tumble and they don't really get injured that much. Whereas other players, it doesn't take much to get them injured, but they're still playing, the most brutal contact sport on planet Earth. So I don't think we're seeing an injury crisis. I think this is just rugby league. And, I wonder if we will see the sport go towards bringing in a rotation for especially forwards. I think the best teams have a really good forward rotation at the moment. Like I think of a team like, say, the Storm. They've always had a good forward rotation. The Panthers right now have, I think, the best forward rotation in the game. The Roosters have had it for the last couple of years. And I don't think it's a coincidence that those teams are very good. Parramatta, I always think with Kane Evans, who comes off the bench for Parramatta, I always feel like he's the canary in the coal mine for the Eels in terms of like when he's playing well and he's coming off the bench, when he's playing well, the Parramatta Eels are going well, and he's not playing well at the moment, unfortunately. So I just think it's rugby league, and it's just, we've got to get used to it.
That's fair enough. The one thing that surprised me that you raised it is how Super League teams, they rotate players very regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that the NRL clubs don't do a similar thing, especially when they've got a 30-man squad. Why not rotate a few players every week? It's just weird that they don't do that.
You'd have to be, and Robinson talked about doing it last year. You've got to be in such a strong position. Like how many teams this year could honestly say that they've been in a position to rotate players? Like I think right now the Panthers could if they wanted to. I think the Storm probably could if they wanted to. The Roosters couldn't just because they've had so many injuries in their forward pack. Could the Eels? Maybe.
Well, the good thing about rotation, obviously it means you get a few younger players into the game and they play a little bit more than just 1 or 2 games. When injury comes in, they get to have a proper run.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, you don't have to rotate like 6 or 7 players every week, just 1 or 2. Change them up every now, one on the bench, one on the starting side, and it's only got to be little changes here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just helped to make sure that players don't get overworked, I guess, especially when they've got a short turnaround. Bring in a few players, then look after your stars a little bit, so that they're all fit and ready to go when the finals come.
See, this is why I think we should have a 20-round competition. Like 22 is fine. I'd go 22, but I think in an ideal world, we have a 20-round competition, and in the middle of the year, we have our rep football. And how you structure that, you try and get some breaks in for the elite players there. But I think that with modern day rugby league, especially the NRL itself, I think 20 rounds is plenty for the wear and tear that it takes on a player. The interesting thing I've seen this year is we've seen a few Achilles injuries. And my understanding is when you do your Achilles, it is a repetitive stress-related injury. And it's terrible when you see it happen because it's like so obvious that it's an Achilles injury when it happens. But we don't normally see Achilles injuries in the NRL.
No, that's right. So I think that's the thing that makes this injury talk come up, is that there's a lot of injuries that are very similar coming up all the time. So people are going to say, must be something consistent across the entire game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just, remember a few years back we just had a run of players getting pec injuries.
Yeah,
it just happens in cycles, I think.
It just happens, yeah. And that's why when we talk to NRL physio, and we should talk to him again soon, he's probably ready to come back on again. It's interesting because, he looks at the data. He's not guessing. And even you and me right now are just guessing, right? And the media just fucking runs rampant with their guessing. But it's interesting when you talk to somebody that has the data and they're like, no, there is no increase whatsoever in these sorts of injuries. And so that's why we got him on to talk about those sorts of things.
Exactly. Yeah, we talk to the bigwigs.
Yeah, we do. There
you go. So was that the end of that email, or was there a bit more?
No, that was his email. And we don't have any new emails, I don't think, anyway.
Have we caught up on all of our admin?
I think we have, yeah.
Nice.
Let me have a look. I'll just make sure. Come on, load up email. I'm going into my email now.
See, people should know Freaky's got one of those laptops that came out in 2000. It's got 560 mega RAM and a hard drive that holds about 2 gigabytes. So that can be a little slow sometimes.
We've got a couple here.
Oh,
we do have a couple from Limbretta. So let's answer.
Yeah, why not? Let's get into it.
Okay, he says, having seen a lot of refs challenges this year, I have really grown to like them. He goes, number one, the challenges are more often than not wrong, which proves that the referees are doing a great job. Two, occasionally, things happen in the blink of an eye and the referees do have to go on gut instinct. This gives the person, the player, closest to the incident, an opportunity to correct something that isn't right. These are rare, but they do happen. Three, most importantly, it gives the referees a great way of shutting up whingers by simply asking, are you going to challenge the call? If not, go away. He says, I agree with Andrew that challenging referees is not something we want to see, but we live in a world where the media has driven distrust in the referees. The challenge gives the referees the opportunity to show that they do a great job.
I agree with all those sentiments. The problem is it hasn't stopped the media from bitching about referees.
True. And I think it hasn't stopped. I mean, I know on my Twitter feed this weekend, people going crazy about the refs. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that, the one key thing I was told about that, the refs challenge was going to do is going to put an end to that, and it just hasn't. It's made no difference.
No.
So,
and he sent another one. He said, hi, guys.
Hello again.
I am absolutely loving the 1996 season episode. I emigrated to Australia in October 1995, so 1996 was the first season I had the potential to see. Only I didn't. Coming from the London area, I was in love with football and spent 1996 watching the NSL. That's the National Soccer League.
Yeah.
That was what was in place before the A-League. The only game I remember watching part of was the 1996 Grand Final, but I didn't watch much. In a way, listening to what a mess it was, maybe that was a good thing, but I managed to fall in love with the game in 1997, so maybe nothing could have stopped me. He says, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the 1997 season and the amazing World Club Challenge, which I watched a lot of. As a POM, I remember being disappointed by how the English teams kept getting belted, and he says always second half capitulations. I have a memory of a tri-series game in Super League where Matt Rogers scored every point for Queensland. Keep up the great work. Your podcast is so enjoyable. Cheers, Lambretta.
Yeah, the 97 episode is coming up soon.
Yeah, we'll have to book that one in, hey?
Yeah, I'll have to take a day off work.
Yeah. Back in a whole day's worth of salary. That'll be fine.
Yeah, that's going to be a big gig, that one. Because, yeah, that World Club Challenge, I don't know if we do a separate episode on that or not, but it was one of those things where it came out and it sounded, on paper to the casual fan, absolutely fucking great idea. But when you just thought about it a little bit and gone, hang on, we're putting some of Australia's best players against these English clubs that have been going backwards for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
This may not go well. And then after the first round of results, where every scoreline was like 40 or 50 or 60, sometimes 70 odd by the Australian team against the British team, you're like, there's like 7 more weeks of this.
Yeah, and it come at a time where, that the Australian Rugby League season was just carrying on, and it was giving people what they wanted to see, which was just let's play some football. And the Super League season was like, well, we're going to have a short season with a couple of new teams that have just been made up out of nothing. And then we're going to play this World Club Challenge, and it's going to be fucking great. You should watch it. And it was a unmitigated disaster for them.
Yeah. Let's just talk through one of the stupidest situations in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that in the final round of games there before the final started, Penrith were in a situation where they needed to beat St Helens by 46 points or more so as to qualify for the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And they only won by 6 points, which meant they finished 4th in their group and were undefeated. So they won all 6 games. They had a points differential in 6 games of 136. So for those playing at home, that's an average margin of almost 23 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't make the finals. You know who did make the finals?
Who?
Paris Saint-Germain had 1 win and 3 losses. Bradford made the finals despite not winning a game at all.
Yeah.
And that's the problem they had, is that when they got to the finals, they're looking at all the tables, they went, hang on, it's all Australian teams in here that are the best teams. How do we keep the British public interested in it? We'll just tweak it a little bit so that all that, they get a handful of teams in there, and they just got smashed in the finals anyway, and none of them made it to the grand final. It was Hunter versus Brisbane, and Brisbane walked it home.
Yeah, and it was like, it was a non-event. That competition was a non-event, and people are just. I felt the Super League grand final was a bit of a nothing event, quite honestly, but the World Club Challenge was just, who cared?
Yeah.
As
is for Canberra had the best attack.
Mm-hmm.
They averaged 50 points per game over their 6 games. And they finished second last in their group with 5 wins and a loss.
Oh, man. But yeah, maybe because the thing about the 1997 season, when we do that review of it, it's like 2 footy seasons in one.
Mm-hmm.
Like
we 2.5 with the World Club Challenge and the Tri-Series thrown in.
Yeah, and the Tri-Series, that was another thing. It was like, okay, this is different.
Looks good on paper.
Yeah, but then when you watched it, they had that now it's the second longest game in the game's history. But it was like it was missing the thing. The ARL still had all the magic stuff, basically. Yeah. And
they had all the history on their side.
Yeah, they really did. And when they had that grand final, and it like the rivalry between Manly and Newcastle, it had been built up over a number of years. It had been built up, funnily enough, in the City versus Country matches with Paul Harrigan and Mark Harrell belting the shit out of each other in those games.
Despite both playing for teams that were about, 60 k's apart?
Yeah.
One was country, one was city.
Exactly. It's easier for Mark Harrell to drive to Newcastle than it would have been for him to drive to Penrith. And
or to the country.
Yeah, it's just the country. Friggin' ages away from the country. So Paul Harrigan for that matter. But,
that's true.
But yeah, it just all culminated in the ARL getting the wins in those areas in the Super League season. Like, how many people ever talk about that great Super League grand final in 1997? No one cares.
Played in the rain, that's all I remember. Now, interesting fact about the 1997 season.
Mm-hmm.
Balmain finished 8th.
And was it a top 7 series?
They had a top 7.
Yes! Yeah.
Do you know who finished 9th that year?
West?
Yeah, it was West.
Yes! Oh, that's so perfect.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's great.
The only time in the entire, was it 1996 period onwards, where they didn't have a top 8, and Balmain finished 8th.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Which side? Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Which side of the joint venture is cursed?
Well, you've got to say the Magpie side, given that they'd only won 4 titles prior to the merger, and they struggled through the last 5 years of their existence. Not saying that Balmain didn't struggle either, but Balmain were never a team that was ever regarded as a whipping boy. They had 4 wooden spoons in their history.
Okay, now here's an interesting thing. This comes back to what you consider to be cursed.
Well, I suppose that's a good question. Cursed.
Because from my point,
plagued by failure.
Well, okay, so this is interesting. From my point of view, being terrible is not so much the curse. The curse would be that the worst thing you can give to a fan is hope, and then crush them hopes and dreams. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I can see where you're going with it.
Mm-hmm.
Balmain didn't have that much hope, only in the 89 grand final, if we're honest. And that got crushed then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alan Jones became coach. And if you thought that hope got crushed in the 89 grand final, man, he got crushed when he became coach.
I think you just answered the question. Alan Jones coached one of these clubs. That's a curse.
That was a cancer is what it was.
Oh, shit. What if you know what we should do on the podcast?
Uh-oh.
We should
get the lawyers on.
Yeah. No. I'm not going there.
Oh, good.
What we should do is exercise the West Tigers curse. How would we do that?
You can't.
What would you be willing to do to make the 8 next year?
See, I don't know. I want to make the 8.
Because it continues the failure cycle.
Let's be honest, it ruins the fun. Like, if the Tigers make the finals, all of a sudden I've got to start talking them up and being positive about them. You know, going, oh yeah, we're a chance here. We can do this. And going, it's just easy to go, yeah, I don't know, and you can just laugh at them along the way and not be taken seriously.
Do you hope they finish 9th?
For shits and giggles, absolutely. See, I think the worst thing that anyone who supports a team other than Melbourne has is, having hope.
Yeah.
Because we went through that briefly in 2010 and 2011, and it looked like it was building up to something really good. And then 2012 was the most miserable year I can think of as a West Tigers fan until Jason Taylor became coach.
Oh, shit. Yes, I don't think I've ever experienced that sort of thing as a Panthers fan where it's like, that. Well, Matthew Elliott was different. He was like an oppressive dark cloud of hate and nothingness that just shrouded life during his time as a coach. So that was a bit different.
That was worse than just a black dog.
Yeah. It was like drowning in molasses.
Oh well, I tell you,
Uh,
we're getting very close to having a purge of your own there.
Yeah.
We might just move on before things get too dark.
Yeah. I start to go fucking deep into my soul.
Yeah, yeah. And then crush you. We don't do that. Not yet, anyway.
No, no.
Gonna burn all
I
the.
like to keep my soul crushing things for like, females are good at that.
We don't want to. We don't want to crush you now and ruin all of our future content.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, let's save it up for when we've got a rainy day and we've run out of stuff to talk about.
Imagine, imagine we did like we've done like 1,070 episodes or something, right?
So next week.
Yeah, sometime next week, and we're like, what are we talking about? Oh, let's just fucking talk about Matthew Elliott. And I just get so upset where where it's just to a point where you and I have a falling out. Which, like, we've never, well, like, for anybody listening, we've never, like, people have heard our disagreements, hey?
Yeah.
Like, they're so minor, it's really funny. But yeah.
Neither of us are that passionate about our views anyway.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, yeah, I see your point of view, whatever.
Yeah. I see your point of view. I mean, you're wrong, but I see your point of view.
Yeah.
Pretty much us.
But yeah, the biggest one was that you felt as though there's no reason to kick at a football when a player is in a certain position, and I feel as though kick away, son, and that's our biggest disagreement.
Actually, we can try one here.
Yeah.
Do you think that Chad Townsend should be suspended for his hit on Kalen Ponga?
Well, we talked about this last night a little bit, and I said that there are elements to the tackle which I think were not. I think that there were a bunch of different elements that added up to just it being so stupid that, like, just go off the field, you idiot, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Should he be suspended? He didn't make contact with his head. That's what Ponga said straight after the match.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a week or two for a reckless tackle.
Okay, I'm going to give him. I'm going to give him 2 weeks for the utter stupidity of leading with the shoulder charge, which he knows is an illegal tackle.
Yeah,
and also doing it when you can hear the referee calling play off.
Yeah,
now, that's utter stupidity. It's 1 week for each of those dumb ideas that he had in his head. I then give him 1 week for the hit. Because, let's be honest, it's Chad Townsend. Being hit by Chad Townsend, yeah, it's like being hit by a leaf blower, really, isn't it? And the only way he can hit someone and make them stay down is when that player's not paying attention and they're not really running hard. And they weigh 80 kilos. So I give him a week for that. And then I'm going to give him 17 weeks for his fucking haircut.
Oh, shit. How many weeks did the judiciary put him up for?
I'm hearing 3.
See, I feel like that's I feel as though 2 probably. And I'm the same with you. It's like, it's 2 weeks for the utter stupidity of it. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's just
like,
dumb.
Say he had hit Ponga with just a proper, like, Trevor Gilmeister tackle. It probably would have been a penalty for a late hit or whatever, but it wouldn't have gone to the judiciary or anything like that. But the thought that he was, like, shoulder charging and fucking flying through the air and stuff, it's like, yeah, give him 2 weeks just to think about how silly it was.
Well, I've got my system for determining how many weeks a player should get suspended.
Yeah.
And so the first one is how many weeks the actual incident deserves, just on its own, not taking into account any stupidity, just the actual incident itself. And I think for the incident itself, he deserves 1 week.
Yeah.
And then you look at the stupidity ranking. And if it's really stupid, you add on double the base. So because he's got 1 week for the base All right.
Yeah.
You double that's another 2 weeks. You put that on top, so he gets 3 weeks for that. So he's getting pinged 2 weeks for being an absolutely stupid fucking idiot, and 1 week for the actual hit.
I like this idea. Actually, this is
How
a
can it
really
go
good
wrong?
system. Yeah, I really, really like this.
And you need to have the judge on the judiciary say that.
Yeah.
Like, say to Chad, look, we're going to give you 1 week for the shoulder charge. It wasn't that bad a hit. It didn't do any damage. You're a bit of a p-hearted sort of defender, so you're not going to do much impact. But we're going to give you an extra 2 weeks to for being fucking stupid. Bang the gavel and move on. Next.
Do you reckon they use a gavel?
They have to.
Oh, that's awesome.
That should be the first thing Andrew Abdo should bring in as CEO.
Gavel.
Judge needs a gavel.
I think he should have a gavel.
Yeah.
He just sits at his desk all day.
Well, no, I was just saying, whenever he does a press conference,
yeah,
they start all asking questions. He just said, banging the gavel.
Yeah.
So everyone shuts up.
At the end of it, he brings it up higher than he needs to over his head and just goes, bang.
Yeah.
That's it. He gets up, walks away. He doesn't answer another question.
Actually, what he should do is just come in, answer the first question, bang the gavel, and just leave it there and walk off. Like, that's it. I'm just going to be one question. One answer, Abdo. That's me.
One answer, Abdo. I am looking up. Okay, so, $34 I could buy a gavel, a court judge's gavel on eBay.
And how much is it for the wig?
Let me look up judge's wig.
All these people out there spending years and years at law school, spent all that money, and all they could have done was gone to eBay, bought a gavel, and bought a wig. Damn, job done.
This is great. This is going. Okay. It's funny. I put in judge's wig. The first thing that come up was Colonel George Washington, Captain Cook, Mozart, fancy wig.
It's all the same thing.
Yeah, I guess it is. Although I'd want a proper judge's one. So the judge's one is $49. That seems like a lot.
You are practicing law.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't want to spend like $70 though to become an official judge.
Well, it's important.
Okay, hang on. I just had an idea. Because
that's right, people. You just heard Freaky have an idea.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no costume. What I was going to do, I could have bought a judge's outfit, right? And I'm thinking, imagine having a judge's outfit, then a jury outfit, and then a fucking executioner outfit. It's really all just a way for me to buy an executioner's outfit. But I thought that would have been cool. Let's have a look at executioner outfit.
You can buy an executioner's outfit just by going to Bunnings and buying like 6 meters of rope.
No, they used to have you ever seen an executioner's outfit?
No, I've always been law abiding.
The one I used to own. It's like let me describe it to you. It's like a black outfit, right, with the hood.
So it's like Death from those AIDS ads in the early 90s.
Yeah, it's very much like the Death AIDS outfit, except without the because he represented death and AIDS.
Yeah.
Whereas now they separate it, where it's death is death and then AIDS is Charlie Sheen. But you knew that was coming. But, I
was waiting for it the whole
time. But yeah, it's a very specific costume. Okay, this is what sciencemuseumgroup.org.uk says. What did executioners wear? An executioner is said to have worn the mask before delivering the final blow with either an axe or a sword. It cuts a gruesome figure. It is deliberately macabre and menacing to further terrify the prisoner. Executioners often wore masks to hide their identity and avoid any retribution. Although I have heard on history podcasts where executioners, they also had some like weird jobs. So they would be the sorts of people that would like pick up bodies and things like that. So they kind of did all the jobs that people didn't like. But that's at different points in history, you know.
All right. I'm curious why they wore a mask, because, I mean, essentially, the person they're killing is not going to remember them after they've done their job properly, are they?
Well, that's true. I have a feeling it was almost about dehumanizing the executioner.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I still believed in religion back then, and probably thought they were going to get judged if someone could see their face. Blah, 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 blah. We have gone a little off track, haven't we?
Yeah. Manscaped, everybody.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about cutting things.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
to Manscaped.
Execute those hairs on your nuts.
Exactly. What you want to do is you want to be the executioner of your pubes, and you want to go to manscaped.com, go and get the perfect package. You get everything in it, absolutely everything. You get the boxes, you get the Lawnmower 3.0, you get the ball toner, you get the ball deodorant, you get the mat that you put down and it captures all of your bush when you've cut it all off. What else do you get in there? I feel like I'm missing something.
Was there a T-shirt as well? I can't remember.
I believe you and me just got the T-shirt because
we're important.
Yeah. But yeah, go there, check it out, get 20% off and free shipping by putting in our exclusive code, which is NRL. And the good thing about manscaped.com is they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee, because they know once you use the Lawnmower 3.0, you're just going to be so impressed with the results and what happens because of the results. You're just going to love it.
So much so, you'll probably go to like advanced hair so you can make your hair grow fast just so you can shave it off again.
Yeah, just because it's fun.
Yeah. You got that little light on there as well.
Yeah, it's got a light.
You can attach it to your car keys. So when you get home, put the little light on so you can see where the keyhole is on your door. So you can come inside and just shave your nuts in the dark. And it's waterproof. You can shave your nuts in the dark in the shower.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's very very well put together. It's a fantastic product. And because it's got the light, what you can do is, like, if you wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes it's 3:30, you lie in your bed next to your significant other, you're like, I just shave my balls right here. You just kick the covers off, boom, start shaving your balls right there, right next to them. They won't mind.
No, and it's so quiet, they wouldn't hear it anyway.
Yeah. It's like you just go for it, and you surprise them when they do wake up. They're like, "What's going on?" You're like, "Sweetheart, I'm shaving my balls for you." She's going to be like, "Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Let me kiss them." That's how it works, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, why not? So, get over there to manscaped.com and get onto their gear. Use our code for you, NRL. We'll save you cash and we'll get you free postage.
Yeah.
We look after you.
We do. Hey, where could people go if they wanted to help work on the digitisation of rugby league history?
Let me just check my notes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Go to patreon.com/RL Project.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're bored and you want to go and check us out, but you want to do something else beforehand, just go to patreon.com/RLP. That's just something not suitable for work.
Yeah.
But RL Project. That's the one I've got there. Check that out. You can make a monthly donation of whatever the hell you like to help me out running the Rugby League Project website. There's a huge amount of work going on there at the moment. You may not see it all on the website because it's all at the back end, but very soon it'll all get populated with a lot more data and stuff, and you'll be like, man, how does this thing keep getting more and more data on there? But it just will. I'll be doing it until the day I die.
Yeah. So 6 months from now.
Well, I've already been teaching my 5-year-old daughter how to do maths very well. She's now taking a very keen interest in rugby league, so I've already got the next generation sorted.
You're getting ready to hand the keys over to her when she takes an interest enough in it that she can do all of the calculations and stuff and all the stuff. I've heard you working on the website. It's very in-depth, and I know that every little bit helps, and there's a lot of time and effort is spent. I don't think people realise how much time and effort is spent researching, just tiny little things like what was the first name of this player? It's a J Smith. What was the J stand for? Having a look through things like that. So It's takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and anytime somebody goes to patreon.com/RL project, it helps in those efforts.
Absolutely. And while we're on the case, where would someone go if they want to support one of the longest-serving independent rugby league content creators that's known to the internet?
They would go to patreon.com/leaguefreak, no space, because that's my Patreon. There's a few different tiers in there. You start off with $3 a month. It's $3 a month, but it's like the cost of a cup of coffee. And then if you want to go to the higher tiers, the last 3 tiers you can either pick, you can get after 3 months of being signed up, you get either a free mug, a free t-shirt, or a free sticker. You can choose which one you want, or you can just, go on the lower tiers and just support the website. But I wanted to make sure there was some sort of way that you could go at a higher level and get yourself a bit of merch. Patreon sorts all that out, so that's pretty handy. But yeah, that all goes towards the website hosting costs, the different website addresses I've bought. I actually had 2 of them built to me today. I had what were the ones I had?
International. When did the other 17,000 line up?
I know, right? I had. Let me see on I had International RL. That was one of them, and I think the other one was RL World Nines was the other one that ticked out today. And rlworld9s.com and internationalrl.com. So, and I know that over the next few days there's going to be about 7 others. It's not even joking.
No, it's not.
I mean, fuck, I own madquackers.com.
Oh, that is lovely.
Yeah.
And stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, we're doing some stuff.
Yeah, when we get bored in the off season, that thing's going to get flogged.
Yeah. Also, madquackers.com.
Yes. Well done. I suppose on that note, Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you check us out on Twitter at FergoFreakPod, on Instagram at FergoFreakPod. We're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We've also got our own website, FergoandTheFreak.com. You can go over there, and as Freaky said earlier, you can drop us an email via the comment section there.
Yeah, contact section.
There you go. That's the one. Make sure you subscribe to us on your listening devices there for your podcasts. Also, we'd love it if you subscribe to our YouTube page and liked all the videos there. That'd be brilliant. Please give us a 5-star rating and a good review, because we'll read that on the podcast. We'll even put it up on the website.
And retweet the shit out of stuff when there's because it all goes up automatically if you're on Twitter. If you see the episode go up, just retweet the fuck out of it.
Exactly. That'd be fantastic. And on that note, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We will catch you next time.